Do today's daf yomi, which I'm doing from a car. So I'm going to on my way to the Holy Land to be mechazik the chayalim, to be mechazik the soldiers. So I'm going to stop the video. Okay, so today's daf yomi is Kiddushin Samach Love. This is the daf yomi for Wednesday, and we're going to start on the bottom of Samach Beis, around 8 lines from the bottom. Amar Abaye. So Abaye says that Amar. Let's say we had the following scenario. Amar lo eid echad achal tochelev. Let's say one witness comes along and claims that you ate the forbidden fat, v'hala shosek, and then the other one is quiet. The other person is quiet in response to that. So one witness comes and it says you ate the non-kosher fat, and you'd have to bring a chatos if you ate it accidentally. And the other one is quiet. So Rashi says basically his silence is the equivalent of him saying, I did it. It's like he's admitting it. Naaman, we're going to believe the one witness. And Rashi writes here, Naaman, the witness is believed, the kosher hakarban, and so therefore the person can bring a sacrifice. Chatos, and this doesn't fall within the category of somebody else telling him about a sin. That you're not, Rashi says you're not allowed to have somebody else tell you about your sin, that you need to know about it on your own. So therefore, that's a scenario. V'tana tuna, and we learned about that. Amar lo eid echad achal tochelev. And how do we explain this statement? That if one witness says you ate the non-kosher fat, v'hala omer lo achalti, and the other one says no, I didn't eat it, potter. And the other one says I didn't eat it, he's exempt. Why is he exempt? Taima da amar lo. The reason why he's exempt is because he said no, I didn't eat it. Ha ishtik, but if he would be quiet, it would be a kind of an admission, and therefore it'd be mehem and he'd be believed. A second case that Abaye says, Amar Abaye, Amar lo eid echad nitmeu taharosecha. If one witness comes along and claims that your taharos, that you're pure, that everything that went into the mikvah is tahor, v'hala shosek, and the other person is quiet, we're going to believe the witness. V'tana tuna, and it was taught about that, eid echad omer nitmeu, that if one witness claims that it was tamei, and the other one says he was not nitmei, he's potter. Meaning to say, what's the reason why he's exempt there? Time of the amar lo. The reason is because he says, I wasn't tamei. Ha ishtik, but if he'd be quiet, mehemen, the witness would have been believed. Now we have a third case that Amar Abaye. Third case is Abaye says Amar lo eid echad, that one witness claims shorcha nirba. One witness claims your ox committed bestiality, v'hala shosek, and the other one is quiet. Naaman, we're going to believe him. V'tana tuna, and it was taught about that. V'shenevdebo avera, and it was taught about that. Why do we believe him? And it was taught about that in the case that if the ox did a sin, v'shehemes api eid echad, o api abalam, and the ox killed somebody on the basis of one witness or the owner's admission, he's believed. And so the Gemara asked the question, what's the one witness in this case? What's the scenario? What's the watch pot here? Either kamodu balim, if the owner admits it, that's exactly the case of where the owner admits it. Elav deshasik. So we're saying it must be in this case where the owner was quiet, and so therefore, since he's quiet, it's like he is agreeing to what the witness said. It's like he's testifying on his own. The Gemara says, we need all three cases. We need the first case of the Chaylev, and then we need the second case, which was the Taharos becoming Tameh, and then we need the third case of the ox that was nearby, that engaged in the fornication. Why? The Yashminan, says the Gemara, if we just had the first case, the Yashminan half kamaisa, if we just had the first case, he loved the Kimle ben Avshay, the Avad Chulin, because we might have thought, well, if he hadn't been certain that he was eating Chulin, he loved the Kimle ben Avshay, the Avad Chulin Balzar Maisi. If he wasn't certain that he actually ate the Chulin, maybe we would say we don't believe him because he had to be certain that he ate the Chulin that he ate the chalab. Otherwise, he would never have brought the chulin into the azar. He never would have brought the non-kosher, the non-sacred sacrifice into the courtyard. So maybe we give him greater believability. But in the case where the taharos were tamei, nidmu tarosecha, where the witness claims your pure things were actually tamei, meimer amrinan, you might say, hi Deshasik, that the reason why he was quiet is to suffer, because he might be thinking to himself, Chazi Levi made too maso. He says, well, I can at least use them while I'm tamei. And if we only had that scenario, where he said it was tamei, I would say Mishum to come off so they've been made tarasa, because he can't use it while he's tahar. I will show nearby, but if his ox was assaulted, where his ox was fornicated, Neimer Amar, he might have claimed, he might have said, listen, it's not really costing me anything. The reason why I'm quiet is because I don't need to bring it as a korban. Most oxen are not brought as a korban. And so therefore, we need to say in all three cases that his silence is the equivalent of actually admitting that it took place. Shtika kota, silence is like admittance. So then the Gemara tells us, the Gemara asks the question, what about the following case? So, Ishto zinto ba'ed echad v'shosek mahu. So they asked Abaye the following case. Let's say one man comes along and says that his wife, he testified that his wife was adulterous, and he did this with only one witness, and he says this man's wife was adulterous, and the husband was quiet in response to that claim. Would we say that we believe the one witness, and therefore the husband and wife have to separate? So Amar Abaye says Neman. Abaye says we're going to believe him. We believe the one witness in that case, and so therefore, because he was quiet, and so therefore the husband has to divorce the wife. Whereas Rava says, Eino Neman, we're not going to believe the one witness. Why? Because it's Avedavar Sheba Erva. It's a matter of sexuality, sexual implications. And we don't accept a matter, we need two witnesses if it's such a serious matter, a matter of sexual implications. We need a minimum of two witnesses, says Rava. So Abaye says, I'll prove to you that I'm right. How can I prove to you that I'm right? There was once a blind man. He was arranging his Torah studies in front of Shmuel. Every day he used to repeat his Mishnayos in front of Shmuel. Yom Echad, and one day he was late. One day he was late for Avakasi, and he wasn't coming. Shmuel sent a blind messenger to the blind guy's house to tell him to come. Meanwhile, while the agent who went to get this blind man went down one path, the guy came on the other path. So the agent missed the guy, and he went up to the guy's house. When the agent came, he said, Amar Ishto Zinta. He says, oh, your wife was adulterous. So now the guy was quiet. So also coming to Shmuel. He came in front of Shmuel. He said, what should I do? So Shmuel said, if you believe this guy with his claim that your wife was adulterous, you have to divorce her. Low topic. So otherwise, if you don't believe him, you don't divorce her. Now, what's the scenario here? What's the case? Isn't Shmuel saying, isn't Shmuel saying, if he's believed that he's not a robber, and so therefore, if you believe him that he's not a robber, you trust this one witness, then it's enough to divorce him, to divorce. The Rava, and Rava says, and Rava says, if he's believed to like two, if you believe this one witness as though he's the equivalent of two witnesses, then divorce her. Otherwise, don't divorce her. So that's how Rava would defend himself. He's saying, you wouldn't say if you believe the one witness. He's saying if you believe this one witness as though he used two. And Abaye says, how do I know this idea that we believe one witness in the case of adultery? Mice or a claim of adultery. Mice Yanai Melch. There was this incident with King Yanai. King Yanai was a descendant of the Hasmoneans. He went to this place called Kochit in the wilderness. Sham Shishim Krachim, and he conquered there 60 cities. He had a very big military victory. And then when he returned, he was rejoicing tremendously. And he called all of the scholars of Israel together. And Amaram, he said to them, Avosenu hayu ochim meluchim bizman shayu asukim b'binyan beis hamikdash. When our ancestors were involved in the building of their first temple, they had to eat only salted vegetables, meaning to say they had it rough. So we too, we're going to also eat these salted foods, not fresh foods. Remind yourself of the sacrifices of our ancestors. This reminds me, when I was interviewed today on Channel USA, they had, I told them, the Jewish people are going to remember this massacre for thousands of years. The Jewish people have very, very, very long memory. That's what Yanai HaMelech, he's building, he's in the time of the Hasmoneans. So let's just say that's like 150 years before the Common Era, and he remembers what Solomon did. He remembers what Solomon did 700-800 years earlier. So that's just tremendous, and that's what they ate. Can you imagine? So they put their meager food, their salty food, on the golden tables, and they ate it. Hayasham ish leitz leiv ra'obliel. There was a very wicked man there. Elazar ben Puria Shmo. His name was Elazar ben Puria. Yomer Elazar ben Puria Yanai Melech. He said to King Yanai. He says to him, Yanai Melech libam shel Purushim Melech. He says, the rabbis, the Pharisees, they don't like you. I'll prove it to you. Put the tzitz is the golden forehead plate, put it between your eyes. He put the tzitz between his eyes. There was one elderly man there. Yehuda ben Greda Shmo. His name was Judah, the son of Greda. Judah, the son of Greda. Yehuda ben Greda or Yanai HaMelech. Yehuda ben Greda said to Yanai HaMelech, Rabucha Keser Malchus, Hanach Keser Kahuna, Lazaro Shel Aaron. So he said, Yehuda ben Greda said to Yanai, why are you trying to be Kohen Gadol by putting the tzitz on? You're taking too much. It's enough that you've got the crown of kingdom, and now you want to be the crown of the Kahuna? You need that for a descendant of Aaron, and you don't get it. You're not a true descendant of Aaron. Even though you're from the Hasmoneans and the Chashmonaim or from Matisyahu, you lost your ability. Why? Because Yanai's mother was once captured amongst Modi'im, and we read these words about the captured women, and we cry on the day when the Jewish people had when the Hamas terrorists, evil barbaric terrorists, released a video of a Jewish girl being in captivity. So we cry when we read these words. But they said that they used to say that Yanai's mother was captured, and the matter was sought out. But they couldn't find where she was. And so therefore the Chachmei Yisrael told Yanai HaMelech, the Chachmei Yisrael told Yanai in their anger, they said to him, listen, you're not the they said to him, you're not the one. That's what they said to him, because they had this incident. So so that's what they said to him. So what Yanai HaMelech did was he took the Chachmei Yisrael and he got rid of them because he was so angry. But Yomer Elazar ben Puria Yanai HaMelech. So Elazar ben Puria said to King Yanai, he said to him, Hedjot b'Yisrael kachu dino. If there would be a regular person and he would and he would be, his lineage would be attacked. Look what we would do to him. But you're a king and the high priest. What are they doing to you? And so Yanai says to this terrible guy, he says to this terrible guy, Eliezer ben Purio, he says, what can I do? So Eliezer ben Purio says, Rome same. If you want to listen to my advice, you'll destroy them. So he says, well, if that's the case, with Torah Matiyah, what's going to be with the Torah? So Elazar and Puria said, don't worry about the Torah. We'll put it in the corner. Whoever wants to come and study will come and study with it. So he didn't realize, Elazar and Puria didn't realize that there's a tremendous heresy. Why? He should have said that Yana and Melch should have said the following. Yeah, okay, I can put the Torah, the written Torah in the corner, but Torah Shabbat Pemai. What will I do to the oral law? Immediately the wickedness went out from Elizabeth Poria, and Yana killed all the elders of Israel. The world was in shock. Shimon ben Shattach the Torah. So Shimon ben Shattach came and returned the Torah to Yoshna. He returned the Torah to its source. And Echidami the Gemara says, what are we talking about here? If we're talking about a case where there were two witnesses who testified that Yanai's mother was captured, the Beitrei Amri Ishtabi, the two said she was captured, the Beitrei Amri Ishtabi, and two said she wasn't. Why would we rely on the two who said she was captured? Why on two that said she wasn't? So must be we're talking about a case of one witness of Eid Echad. And what's the reason that there was one witness? So there was one witness who said she was captured, and the other witness who rebuked it. So if that's what we're talking about, the time of Betray. And the reason is because two people rebuked him, but otherwise he would have believed the one witness. And Rabbi says, no, that's not what we're talking about. Rabbi says, oh, I'm Trey. Rabbi says, really, it was two witnesses against two witnesses. But these final two witnesses came and they impeached the credibility of the first witnesses. It was what's called Eidei Hazama. They weren't counting them on the facts, but they were impeaching them. And that's what we're talking about. And so therefore it's not an indication that's the reason why we believe the latter witnesses over the first witnesses. Alternatively, like Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yitzchak, that wasn't that they had other witnesses. It's that they had new facts, and they realized that they had replaced Yana Amelech's mother with a shifcha, and so she was the one who was assaulted, and not King Yana's mother. And Amar Rava, and Rava said on the top of 66b, how do I know what I say that one witness is not believed by a matter of erva? I'll prove it to you. Because Amar Rav Shimon Ma'aseh and Megura Shaldiskim, there was an incident in this place called Megura Shaldiskim with a well, B'Yavne, in Yavne. So Medes B'Chaska Shlema. We assume that this mikvah had 40 sal. We assume the mikvah was good. And then after people have been going there for a time, they measured it. They found the mikvah was deficient. So what did they do with all the stuff from the first time they measured until now? So Rabbi Tarfon was Matar. Rabbi Tarfon said we could assume it was Tar until now. And Rabbi Kiva was saying Matame. Rabbi Kiva said we could assume it was Tame until now. And Amar Rabbi Tarfon said, Mikvah zeh, I'll tell you why we assume it was okay. He says, this mikvah is because Kashalam Muhammad. This mikvah was in the status that it was whole. Misafik atabal chasro, and you want to take it out of a doubt and say that it's not whole. Al tachsarana misafik. Don't limit it as a result of a doubt. So that's Rabbi Tarfon's logic. And Rabbi Akiva said, Adam zeh b'chazkas tamei omei. This man was in the chazaka of tamei. And the person will need to go to the mikvah. And when you want to come and say he's tar, All the Taranam is suffix. You can't tar if it's an ambiguous case. And now Rabbi Tarfon says, Marshal or Omeid, it's a case of somebody who's standing and bringing a korban on the altar. We know this ben Grusha ben Chavutza. And then it's discovered that he's a ben Grusha or ben Chavutza. So that's what we're talking about. Rabbi Tarfon says it's a parable to somebody who's standing on the altar, and it's discovered that he's a ben Grusha or ben Chavutza. He's a divorcee. So under those circumstances, we're going to say Shavodaso Kshera. That's what Rabbi Tarfon says. If he's working on the altar and then we discovered that he has a blemish in his family, i.e., that he's a chalal, that he's the son of a divorcee, we're going to say that his service retroactively is kosher, and that's what Rabbi Tarfon compares it to. Rabbi Akiva said, "No, Mashal Adam Omedu Makriv Agabe Amizbeach." It's a parable as to somebody who's serving on the altar. And then he discovers he has a blemish. We say there, that his service is disqualified. So that's why retroactively it's disqualified. Rabbi Tarfon says, and ben Grusha ben Chalutza. Rabbi Tarfon says, you compare it to a blemish, and I compare it to somebody who discovered he's a ben Grusha. Let's see who it's more like. Who's the case more similar to? Ben Grusha or ben Chalutza. If we're going to say it's similar to a ben Grusha ben Chalutza, then we don't know to ben Grusha. Then we'll view him as a ben Grusha, and we're going to say retroactively it's okay. And then double about mum, and if it's similar to a case of a blemish, double about mum, then we'll view him like a blemish, and retroactively it's still good. So it's still Rabbi Akiva Radun, so we had to investigate the matter. And he said as follows: Mikvah psula b'yachid, that a mikvah can be disqualified by one person. Ubal mum psula b'yachid, and one can be disqualified with one person. And so therefore, since the mikvah can be disqualified with one, and the blemish can be disqualified one, don't prove it to me from a ben Grusha ben Chalutza shepsulo b'shnayim, which is disqualified with two. Alternatively, Rabbi Akiva gives another explanation. Davar acher, mikvah psula begufo, the mikvah can be disqualified with its essence. Mikvah psula begufo, ba'mum psula begufo. The mikvah can be disqualified with its essence, and so too can meaning say the mikvah's disqualification is that if it's missing, and also the blemish is psula if it's missing. And don't prove it to me from the ben Grusha ben Chalutza where it comes from other people. Rabbi Tarfon responds, Akiva, called Parishman Achayim. Rabbi Tarfon said to Rabbi Akiva, you're 100% right. Whoever separates you is like somebody who separates from the living. So now the Gemara analyzes how do we prove that from Rabbi Akiva that everything that relates to erva needs to. But first the Gemara says this person with a blemish is disqualified with one case. What's it talking about? If we're going to have one witness against one witness, is he really believed? So it must be, or the shasik must be that he was quiet. With the kabasik of the ben Grusha ben Chalutza, the shasik, and similarly by the ben Grusha ben Chalutza will be quiet. The katani mikvah psula b'yachid, ba'mum psula b'yachid. So it says the mikvah is disqualified one, and the blemish is disqualified the one. So we see from here that a ben Grusha claim that somebody's ben Grusha requires two, and that's like what Rava was saying. So that's why Rabbi Akiva is approved for Rava. Abaye says no. No, he was rejecting him, and that what you said in the comments of my Muhammad. So why do we believe him about the fact that this claim about the ben Grusha ben Chalutza? So Abaye says the Amarei Shalach Achoy. So why are we believing him? So Abaye says, hold on one second. Abaye says, Shalach Achoy. He says, because he says about the mum, he says if you really want to say that he's not, the reason why we want witness there, because he says you can remove your clothes. And that's exactly the same way. I mean, you'll show it to me your blemish. That's why it says the mikveh is disqualified on the body, the balmum psul begufo, and also the blemish is disqualified on the body. And don't prove the ben grusha ben chalutza where these qualification comes from other people. Now the Gemara asks another question: Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, that Vodasa share. If you discover is a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza in the middle of a service, why do we say it's kosher? So I'm reading them a shmuel that the stuff retroactively is kosher. So he says Damakrav Salo Zaro Acharav, meaning to say Ben Zera kosher, Ben Zera apostle. That it says by Pinchas will be for him and his seed after him, whether it's kosher seed or disqualified seed. Meaning to say that retroactively will be okay. And Abu the Shmuel says from here, Baruch Hashem Chayro Upor Yadav Tertzeh, which means a few chulin should go Tertzeh. Even if he did it with, and then we discovered it's Ben Grusha, it'll be okay. Now, Rabbi Yanai, it's ironically that the Stafford starts by talking to us about how Rabbi Yanai, about a Yanai Amelch was so wicked. Now the Gemara quotes Rabbi Yanai. Why are they naming him after Yanai Amelch? But anyway, Rabbi Yanai says from here, you go to the Kohen that'll be in those days. Will you really think a person really go to a Kohen who was not in those days? So it must mean that this one is what it refers to somebody who's kosher and became disqualified. And so therefore he retroactively it's okay. So then the Gemara says, and how do we know that a blemish Kohen retroactively is disqualified? It's based on the fact that the pasuk says, therefore he says, I will give him a covenant of peace, which means when is his service okay? When he's complete and not missing. You know what it says? But isn't it written shalom with a vav? So he says, Amar Nachman, vav de shalom ketiyai. No, the vav of shalom is severed. And then write the Torah, you have to write it with a little gap in the vav. It's a lot of different ways how to do it, but therefore that vav of Jisi Shalom is written, the vav of Shalom is written broken. And this is also, to me, a very sad indication that while God gave us the covenant of peace, it's an indication that the peace is not yet complete. All right, we'll stop here. I want to encourage everybody as I travel to